To answer your question is, I think the studies are already out there to support the fact that officers are safer, they'll receive less citizens' complaints. When a false allegation is made, we have the proof to show what actually did happen during the contact between the citizen and the officer.
And do you feel that your officers and officers around the country are well trained enough that the video will more often than not vindicate them rather than get them in trouble?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there will be times that the video will show something that we did do incorrectly procedurally, but I'm okay with that. The truth is the truth no matter where it comes from. And the idea is that if people are going to videotape my officers from their vantage points and only put the provocative part of that video on some posting somewhere, I want to be able to have the entire conversation from the officer's vantage point with all of the other things that go on, the radio traffic, the conversation, the ambient noise that's behind them. I want an accurate depiction of what's said and done.
Are there any ways that you think this camera is being used that you hadn't thought of?
I don't know so much that we didn't think of, but officers are using it to videotape evidence. One of the first videos we got from Officer York was a guy who stole a iPad out of somebody's car after they had carjacked the vehicle. Well, we use the Apple technology to track the iPad, but once he was on the ground being taken into custody, he begins to give a story. And I think a story that most officers would have missed because they're still in the middle of the takedown, the arrest procedure, but he has already locked himself into what he said happened at that split second. So you can't go back and change that now. You've just told us on tape all the reasons why you're not the right guy.
Huh.
So I think that was unexpected.
Yeah, creating that permanent imprint of memory that, memories are so fallible, but there you have it. It's right on videotape.
Right, and he's already chronicled the day's events while he's being taken into custody. So he doesn't have time to sit in the police car and start to, contemplate a new lie that somehow would vindicate him from what he had just done.
Huh. One of the concerns is that because the technology is so new and because there's so much video, that just processing it might cost more than police departments like yours can handle.
Well, we subscribe to evidence.com, which is another product from Taser. And that product is getting better. And I will be the first to tell you, and the officers will too, that the administrative end of what goes on is time consuming and a bit cumbersome. Marking videos to correspond with the call that was there, to redact videos that need to be released to the media or to the public or to courts, what things can't, juveniles can't be seen. We don't give out names and critical information on those. So those are cumbersome. The sheer volume of data that is produced by the cameras, and I'm going to say it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were at 19,600 videos. Well, the ones that aren't important, they will automatically drop off the system based on an algorithm that's built into it. Those ones that are important will be memorialized relatively forever.
How do you determine which are important and which are not?
They're related to an actual case, a complaint, an investigation. Because what we had originally started to do is we had the officers record every basic human contact they had. That was the idea. That in itself became cumbersome, and the officers said, "Hey, Chief, we know when to turn this thing on and we know when to turn it off. Allow us to make the decision on when we tape." And this is a beta test period. So I said, you know what, you got it. Let's do that. Let's try it. So for this next 6 months that we're using these cameras, the officers are deciding what contacts that they want to record. And that was met with some controversy. Some of the officers thought that was crazy and they should record everything. Other ones felt that it helped build the trust level between the administration of the department and themselves.
Interesting. Do you think that these cameras are going to change the way police work is done in America?
Absolutely. Let's go back to what happened at the marathon bombing in Boston. It was the first time that I can remember that the police department and the federal agencies asked the community for all of their videos. Give me every picture, every video you have. We've never done that. That's completely outside of the paradigm. We normally do things that is a bit surreptitious at times. We go out and grab the videos without telling anybody what we have. Well, not this time. But the other thing is, look at if one of the Boston detectives said, "Hey, look, I just checked that barrel, that dumpster, with my dog. I know there was no device there an hour ago, or whatever the timeline was. And he was right. We ended up seeing on the video he was absolutely there, and he did check it, and it was placed after the race had begun. But if you're an officer setting up for a Super Bowl or an NBA All-Star game or whatever that big event is, a marathon, if your officers were wearing those cameras around while they were setting up, it relieves liability. It shows that it documents all the things that they did prior to the event. And it also might catch something that's important later to propel the investigation into a specific area.
It's fascinating. So, I mean,
It is, because those are things that you normally wouldn't think of, because really what we started out this was instant replay for law enforcement. This was your Monday Night Football, was the foot in or was the foot out. This is kind of where it started, but now I think you can see a lot of other areas that can be used for.
Well, one of the things the guys were talking about was that it almost doesn't have to be used. It modifies behavior just by the virtue of people seeing the police officer is wearing one. It modifies the officer's behavior and apparently the suspect or the civilians as well.
People are much politer when they know that they'll be videotaped and it will be used later. When I was a young police officer working a traffic job as a motorcycle officer, being quick-witted was not always one of the best things for a cop. I used to carry a tape recorder with me back in the day that just kept me honest to not say anything I shouldn't say. So I'm the first guy to tell you it modified my behavior just by the fact that I was recording what I was saying. I was much more careful about what I said.
Interesting. And so now that there's actual video capturing what people say, everybody's a little bit more hesitant.
Right, and there's a concern by the officers that this is Big Brother looking out after them, but it really isn't anything to do with that. And I actually told a group of them the other day, I don't have time in my work day to go see what you did, just to check up on you. That no one in this organization has that time. It's much too lean of a staffing model, nor are we compelled to do that anyway. But if they do something that arises that comes to the attention of the administration, at least we can see exactly what's there. Again, transparency is all we're looking for. The truth is truth, no matter if it's on video or if it's something that we write down and report. The bottom line is the way that municipal policing has policing powers is by the trust of the community.
Does the community complain about it? Is the community concerned about privacy issues?
So far, not. There will always be some vocal minority that wants to raise some issue, but they never raised the issue when we were being videotaped by cell phones and other things. They were all happy with that. Well, now that we're actually protecting ourselves and videotaping our own actions, to raise a concern now is actually somewhat comical to me.
Does it in any way hinder police officers from doing their work?
There might be certain circumstances that it could get in the way of an interview, somebody who wants to tell you something, maybe as a witness or as a confidential informant that you wouldn't want to tape, and we wouldn't do that. I mean, I think there are instances when that will come. We as law enforcement executives have to trust in our people and their training to do the right things at the right time, and we do that already. This is just another tool on their tool belt, really. I mean, we give you a gun, a taser, a baton, pepper spray, and we expect you to know when and when not to use those and what order to use them in. It's no different than any of those. It's all about training and believing that you've hired the right people and you have that trust relationship.
Is cost prohibitive?
I'll tell you what, it's expensive, but look at the difference. An Axon camera and the equipment to go with it for an officer is hovering around $1,100 or $1,200, I think. If I was to buy in-car cameras, you see a lot of those dash cams, those are about $6,000 a piece, and albeit you don't have to buy as many of them, probably 60 to 70% of what we do in municipal law enforcement may be different for a sheriff or a highway patrol, but in municipal law enforcement happens outside of the vehicle. So all I have to do is save myself a couple lawsuits with the tape, and it pays for itself. And right now we're using asset forfeiture money to fund this program, so we're using bad guys' money to film bad guys. It's kind of cool.